My brothers and sisters in faith, I have a confession to make. I feel that it is wise at the beginning of any relationship for a person to be open and honest about certain matters. So before we get too far into today's worship journey together, I feel that I must tell you something very important. I am a nerd. I know, it's somewhat of a shock to you. I mean, ministers are cool, and ministerial interns almost being ministers are almost cool. Hip, totally not at all nerdy. So it's hard to imagine such a thing as a nerdy intern, I know. But now I must come clean. Yes, my friends, I am indeed a nerd, and more than that, I enjoy being a nerd. I flip when I see 20-sided dice, and I drool over Stargate, Star Wars, and Star Trek. I wish I had a time travel device to go with the Doctor Who scarf around my neck. I also sometimes break into random music theater references. I apologize. Now, as a bona fide nerd, I tend to prefer reading books to watching television, but there are a few exceptions. I don't always watch TV, but when I do, I tend to watch shows like Doctor Who. Now, I know we're not all Whovians here, so I'd like to give you a brief rundown of the show, hopefully without any spoilers. So a couple Sundays ago, a minister from my congregation, Kelly Crocker, came here and preached to you. In her reflection, she talked about myths as stories that tell us what it means to be human, and that help orient us to one another and to the universe. She said that the traditional stories that have sustained Western culture for several millennia are no longer useful. We need a new story with new meanings. Well, I've got a new story for you. Well, not new exactly, but certainly not that old. Now, the television show Doctor Who has been around since the 1960s, and in some ways it really is a myth for our time. But at the same time, the show was written less like a myth and more like a modern-day miracle play. In medieval times, Catholics used to present these dramatic productions of the lives and adventures of the saints. These miracle plays focused on how the saints intervened miraculously in the lives of regular people. And Doctor Who is sort of a humanist version of that. Like a saint, the mysterious main character known only as the Doctor travels around, hears the cries of different planets and the cries from Earth and other planets, and does not intervene in the lives of regular people in a supernatural way, whether with divine or magical powers. Arthur C. Clarke, another nerd reference, I apologize, once claimed that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And that's absolutely true with Doctor Who. The Doctor runs around not with a magic wand, but with a sonic screwdriver, a device that is part lockpick, part medical scanner, part remote control, and part tracking device. And the Doctor also runs around willy-nilly throughout all time and space in a police box. The box is bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. It fades in and out of existence in random places. It has made mysterious and ridiculously anachronistic appearances throughout all of human history. To the uninitiated, the police box certainly seems magical, if a little absurd. However, in the universe of Doctor Who, the police box is called the TARDIS, or time and relative dimensions in space. The TARDIS is not magical, but instead a sentient, shape-shifting, time-traveling spaceship. The thing is so advanced that even the Doctor doesn't know how to fly it properly. It makes its distinctive sound and looks consistently like a police box for a reason. He left the parking brake on, and he messed up the cloaking device. Now, the Doctor flies this thing around mostly by banging on this or that, shouting at it, and pulling random levers. And then there's the Doctor himself. The Doctor is portrayed as practically immortal, capable of regenerating into a new incarnation each time his body is fatally wounded. This was a useful trope in the show to be able to keep different actors coming again and again since the 1960s until now. And as I said before, the Doctor is portrayed as a saint-like being. He hears the prayers of people in need and has appeared numerous times throughout human history to intervene. His interventions may seem miraculous, but are really accomplished with just the right combination of reason, intelligence, luck, daring, technological aptitude. He seems practically godlike at times, but is really basically a time-traveling, shape-shifting, humanoid extraterrestrial called a Time Lord. Yep, Doctor Who is a miracle play, all right, a humanist miracle play, emphasizing science, reason, naturalistic explanations, and our topic today, the amazing potential of human beings. In fact, in a way, the themes in the television show relate back to our own Unitarian Universalist first principle, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. As you saw earlier in the dramatic excerpts from the show, an ongoing trope in Doctor Who is this idea that things are bigger on the inside than they are on the outside. And this phrase is usually used to refer to the TARDIS, the police box-shaped spaceship, which indeed is far larger on the inside than it appears on the outside. This paradox continually mystifies and delights the humans who encounter the ship for the first time. But then, when the TARDIS is given a human form and a voice with which to speak, she is herself astonished that human beings also seem so much bigger on the inside than on the outside. And thus a whole new view of human worth and dignity becomes possible. We humans are not immortal beings, but mortal beings. We do not flit on a whim through random points in time. We are born and we progress through life from one moment to another precious moment. And then we die. Our lives here on Earth, against the awesome march of endless time, are so fragile, and our lives so very, very brief. In one way, our worth and dignity are deeply tied to this, to the fact that we are immensely improbable creatures in the first place, rare on a cosmic scale, and rarer still for the brevity of our lives. We have worth and dignity because we burn so brightly, so passionately, here in our little corner of the universe, in our brief window of time. But our worth and dignity don't just hinge on the length of our lives, but on the depth of our living. Each individual moment of our lives is also so much bigger on the inside than on the outside. This notion, too, comes up in Doctor Who. When a human being demands to know who he is and where he comes from, the Doctor insists that he can only be known in the moment. He says, "This is who I am, right here, right now, all right? All that counts is here and now, and this is me." Even this nearly immortal being, who has lived for over 1,000 years and changed forms countless times, can only be encountered and understood moment by moment. And how true is that of human life as well? Even our memories of the past or our worries and hopes about the future are lived in the here and now, blending with the rich particularities of each present moment. The current state of our bodies, whether healthy or hurting, or standing in sunshine or snow. The current state of our relationships, whether fulfilling or shallow or conflicted. The current state of our souls, whether connected and aware and whole, or isolated, oblivious, and broken. All of these streams of our being flow together to form us in the present moment, to form our experience of the present moment. We, in each moment, are so much bigger on the inside than we are on the outside. However, the title of my reflection is, of course, We Are All Stories in the End, not We Are All Moments in the End. Now, you heard the line earlier in the brief excerpts from the show. A story is not an endless moment experienced outside of time, but a series of moments experienced in time. A story is a progression of acts and experiences that are linked together by meaning and driven by character. A couple weeks ago, when Kelly Crocker from my congregation came to speak, she shared a story in her reflection. At one point in the story, a wise elder told a little girl, "Let me tell you something about stories. Stories can make you bigger, not on the outside, but on the inside. They can stretch your mind and heart." Yet we humans do not just tell one another stories. We are, each of us, a story, a very long story that is bigger on the inside than on the outside. Just think about it. Think about your life as a closed book. And now imagine opening that book. What's in there? Pages piled upon pages, words heaped up upon words. Each word conveying ideas and images, one after another, each linked like stars to a whole cosmos, a whole constellation of other words and ideas and images. Within each word are letters, and those letters make sounds. Sounds formed by lips and teeth and tongue and lungs, formed into audible words by an intricate dance of muscles and bones, of air moving in and out of the body, communicating everything in the story to those listening, touching and connecting with other stories, other lives, other people. Our lives are rich, are bigger on the inside than they are on the outside, not only because of the rarity of our existence, the depth of our living, the depth of our experiences each moment, and the intricate story woven as moment passes into moment. Our lives are also bigger on the inside than they were on the outside because of how our lives touch the lives of other people and are touched in return. In a sense, each of us does not merely live in ourselves, but in others as well. Pablo Neruda wrote in his poem Ode to Things, "O irrevocable river of things, no one can say that I loved only fish, or the plants of the jungle and field, that I loved only those things that leap and climb, desire and survive. It's not true. Many things conspire to tell me the whole story. Not only did they touch me, or my hand touch them, they were so close that they are a part of my being. They were so alive in me that they lived half my life and will die half my death." In the Sophia Faz reading earlier today, the question was raised, is there an end to this interchange? And whose life is this? It is yours as well as mine. It is mine as well as yours. As individuals with faces and names and characters, we disappear, yet there may be that which never disappears. One wonders, is there ever an end to the years of our lives here in this universe? We pour out of ourselves into others as they pour out of themselves into us, linking one person to another, one generation to the next, through all of our time as a species on this beautiful blue and green planet. And yet the television show Doctor Who may actually be a little more optimistic about the time that our species will have here on this planet in this particular global moment, when our species, and indeed all species on the planet, are threatened by the realities of climate change. At one point, the Doctor says of human beings, "Homo sapiens, what an inventive, invincible species. It's only a few million years since they crawled up out of the mud and learned to walk, puny, defenseless bipeds. They've survived flood, famine, and plague. They've survived cosmic wars and holocausts. And now here they are, out among the stars, waiting to begin a new life, ready to outsit eternity. They're indomitable." To be fair, this glowing vision of an indomitable humanity living out among the stars wasn't put forth today. I don't know if the writers of the show were aware of global warming back in 1975 when the episode from which that quote was aired. Probably not, though the first calculations of human-induced climate change were made back in the 1800s. Scientific consensus did not begin to form until the 1980s. However, today, Dr. Who's vision of humanity living out among the stars is somewhat bittersweet. We live today in what spiritual teacher Joanna Macy has called a global unraveling. As atmospheric carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases continue to increase, the world is getting warmer, species like amphibians are dying, and people are being driven from their homes and their homelands by climate change. With no present escape from the planet we are destroying, no whirring blue TARDIS to whisk us away, the idea that we may one day inhabit the stars can seem unlikely, if not outright absurd. Yet Doctor Who is not merely a modernist television show with an overly rosy view of humanity. It does not make the mistake of assuming that we humans will always do the right thing, and that it will be all progress upward and onward forever, to borrow a phrase from the Unitarian minister James Freeman Clarke. At numerous points throughout the show, the Doctor is furious with human beings and well aware of our destructive capacities. At one point, after discovering that human beings as a species have committed an unspeakable atrocity, the Doctor pushes away his human companions, shouting, "Nobody human has anything to say to me today." Yet, even there, after losing faith in humanity and nearly committing an atrocity of his own to rectify our mistake, humanity comes through for the Doctor. One person, in fact, stands up to him, stopping him from murdering an innocent creature to save humanity, and also finding a solution to save everyone. The show is less interested in the worth and dignity of humanity as a whole, less confident in our collective capacity for goodness, and more focused on the inherent potential in every individual human to stand up against great odds and do the right thing. It's not a potential that is always or even usually reached, but the human potential for goodness is something that nevertheless has salvational power. We can choose to bless rather than curse the world, as individuals, even if not always collectively. One way we do this is by pausing to become aware of our own stories, the stories of who we are and how we are living in the world. When we become aware of the stories that we are living, we also become aware of our capacity to play a conscious role in writing the next chapters of our stories. And in the process, we come to realize that our personal stories stand alongside other people's stories, that we are at times secondary characters in other people's life tales. We come to realize that the way we live our lives shapes other lives, other stories of other people, and the story of our planet. Even if, in the end, our species is unable to save the planet, let alone venture out among the stars, due to our own collective actions or forces outside of our power, the way each of us individually live our lives matters. We have the potential to be good, even if the future is wide open and our ultimate fate is far from assured. We do it by tapping into ourselves, by drawing strength and vision from that inner well that is so much bigger on the inside than we are on the outside.